Do you do the actual vocal cool down?
Yeah.
That's smart. What I
You don't do a cool down? I'm not going to do it if you don't do it. When does madness set in? Like 80 or 90? Where does it?
Preview 1.
Watching her warm her voice up. So how do you maintain such a long run, and how do you maintain your voice? Am I allowed to, are you about to give people secrets that you shouldn't be giving?
I'll tell you what, here's why, because I'm always asking everybody that same question, everybody who does what we do.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, sometimes plays are harder than musicals, because we forget sometimes as actors to support when it's just speaking, because we think, well, I'm just talking, right?
Yes.
In some ways, I found when I've done just straight plays, I have been in more vocal trouble.
Yeah.
How are you handling that right now? How are you doing?
In preparation for the show, which I spent a long time preparing for, many months, I'd never done Shakespeare before.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah, it was pretty daunting. But in preparation for it, I worked with this woman, Jeanette Nelson, who's amazing, works at the RC and National, and she does a lot of voice work, but we were working with I was learning the language of Shakespeare before I started on Othello, because it's a whole other language.
Absolutely.
So we did work there. But then actually what happened was I really struggled in the first few previews and figuring out in a playhouse without singing, without the support I knew, in a language that I was not used to performing in.
Yeah, it's not your first language.
So to me, I figured I knew what I was doing, but what I didn't realize was really the viciousness of this play, and vocally too, particularly for the character I play. Yeah. There are a number of very active, screaming scenes, and I thought to fall back on technique sometimes makes me feel actually a little insecure, like I'm not giving the audience 100%. Like the full thing, like I'm used to being in a scene and doing it and doing like 10 takes and like killing it, and you go home, your voice is shot, but you're like,
you got it.
Yeah, you got it. It felt really real.
Right.
I then turned to Joan Lader, who is a vocal coach I work with, and Joan actually put me through singing vocal warm-ups, and then my voice came back. So I do singing vocal warm-ups before I do the show, which have just been, thank God for them.
Yeah.
Wait, forget about me.
No.
What, how do you, because I love how meticulous a real true singer is, with their voice, what it is, what it means to them, the insecurities that are provoked by it. So it's always
it's the neuroses of the singer. Oh my gosh, it's pretty incredible.
So over a long run, even now I feel like but yes, Jake, hold on, me, yes. So do you? What do you do?
Well, first of all, let me say what happens in here. Every waking moment is, oh my God, am I going to make it through the show tonight? Every waking moment of every waking day from the time.
But you do it all the time, so why can't you?
Hold on, it gets worse as you get older. But literally every moment of every day that I have to do the show, and even on my day off, I'm like, am I gonna make it through Tuesday? Actually, it's funny because my husband, Will Swinson, is an actor and a singer as well. And we tease each other in the house where, on a Monday, I'll be like, He's like, you don't have a show today. Shut up. You don't have a show today. And it's to the point where we're so neurotic about it that we find ourselves, when we're not in shows, just, going about our day, gardening or something, and he's like, what are you doing? All you got to do is pull the weeds today, friend. That's all you got to do. No, it's because, as performers, we use our bodies, right? We can't.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
And as a singer, it's you now, and you're doing it too. You can't put it down over here and say, I'll bring you to the orchestra pit on Tuesday. Yeah. It's with you every waking moment. So so that's what's going on in my head. Just somebody help me. But what I do, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing vocal warm-ups. So I was not disciplined enough to do vocal warm-ups when I was doing plays. When I did Ohio State Murders, I wasn't warming up like I should. And really? I was speaking with a very different voice. I was speaking like Adrienne Kennedy spoke. She has a very high-pitched sort of tone. It's up here. And I realized I'm messing with my voice. And so I started to, but I made the mistake of thinking I was just a play. But I do a classical vocal warm-up before every show I do, especially a singing show, no matter what I'm singing. When I did Lady Day, I warmed up like an opera singer every single night.
And cooled down.
After the show?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
See, that's funny. I have a thing in my dressing room that I've written. I wrote on my mirror, cool down.
That's
and
good.
I was like, but I'm just doing a play. Like,
You know what, though? That's good. That's good. What I do
still do it half the time,
You
if
do?
that,
Do you
yeah,
do
but-
the actual vocal cool down?
Yeah, I have it. Yeah.
That's smart. What I
You don't do a cool down? I'm not gonna do it if you don't do it.
No, you should do it.
No,
I
but
should
if you don't do it, I'm not doing it.
No, I'm going to
Nah,
do
I'm
one
not doing it
tonight.
anymore.
I'll call you and say, "Are you cooling down?" I'm cooling down right now. No, but what I do that I think I started doing when I was doing Billie Holiday, Lady Day, is I started saying to the character as I left the theater each night, "You stay here. Thank you. You stay here. Audra's gonna go home, and Audra's gonna be Audra at home. And Audra's gonna live her life, be present for her children, not try and stay in the head of Billie Holiday. And then I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you on Tuesday, and then I'm yours." Because I was taking my characters home with me. I want to ask you about that too. Is that something you find yourself doing or have done?
I have done, and then I find that like just technique and craft and all those things, which again, let's like the vocal warm up, the walking to the theater. That's what I think I know I love about the theater, is that there's an actual space that you cross through that's sacred. There
Yes.
are different doors you walk through, right? It's like you walk, you get on the subway, you get into your car to go to the
Right.
theater. You get out of that door, then you walk into another one. And you're these passageways. Then you walk down, then you go through backstage, then you're up to your dressing room, that's another door.
Yeah.
And then you're in a space in preparation. And like without knowing it, you do the same thing in passage on the way out. And I think just the ability to do that, you know, has created for me a sense of technique, you know, and there's a threshold, and I'm like, okay, you're doing this thing, and what's on that stage is sacred. You're allowed to express, and when you say like being a kid, being able to express that thing,
Yes.
thank God for it,
Oh,
because the ability to express in that sacred space gave me a space to put out all those feelings.
That's right.
Within the context of interpreting through other people's words.
Right.
I think about that more in the theater than I do anywhere else, because I have the same feeling I had when I was a kid in the wings before I went out. It doesn't feel any different. It's like it allows me something a little easier to separate. I've definitely gotten lost in it, and it's such a moving, changing thing in an ensemble of people who are bringing their own life experiences every day, and we're all together and we're changing. I mean, all that affects me. That affects me probably more than the character I'm playing.
Just the energy of what everybody's bringing where they're at.
Yeah, what happened in somebody's life today, what they come on, how everybody comes together, when we have a swing come in, when things happen, when we're all come around that.
The alchemy changes immediately. Yeah.
But the character part, I'd
It
like
doesn't
to,
haunt you as much at home?
I don't know. Even now, like I like to look at the character as a means of looking at pieces of myself, you know, trying to explore that, right?
yeah.
Like, because there are things I'd be like, how could anyone ever do that? But it's interesting to think about.
Here we are in this time in the world right now.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, history, we looked at history and we say, oh, well, I would never do that. And then all of a sudden we're in this history right now. I mean, we're making this, the world is making history right now. And well, I could never do that. And yet you see people doing things that you'd be like, what, how, and what am I doing in this moment? I mean, I know that's getting political, but.
No, the most interesting thing about Iago, he says early on, he says, though I've slain men in the trade war, yet do I hold it the very stuff of the conscience to do no contrived murder. And at the end of the show, he, you know, kills a couple people, but most of the things he does is bring out somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what's most interesting about him, is he doesn't go, he's not the guy who's going around and like killing people right and left. He's saying
Manson.
like, there's a knife
Manson.
over there, and then somebody else goes and stabs himself with it. And it is very modern in that way.
Right.
It's very prescient in that way.
Were you so frightened? Just, I mean, well, of course you were. I mean, you'd be a fool if you weren't frightened.
I spent a year working on this. They came to me, Kenny came to me with it, and Denzel came to me with it, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do it. And then I was like, I can't not do it. And then I was like in a complete, total panic about it. Like, I was like, how can you ever turn down working with Denzel, working with Kenny, working on Othello with them.
Yes.
And then I just faced the fact that I didn't have any of the capabilities at the time they had asked me to do it. So I literally just went, I'm going to work on this for a year.
And you did.
And I did. And I did, and I just knew that the word was going to be, it was so hard.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing the show now?
I think today will be the 120th performance.
Ooh, that would be the number of performances we do till we're done.
Really?
So how many do you have
Do you want to come and understudy Rose afterwards?
Absolutely. How many shows do you have left?
I don't know.
120.
I don't know. 120.
Is that not with previews or is that with previews?
That's without previews.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
So you've done like 150 shows.
Something like that. Yeah. That's they start counting, when they do the announcements every night.
When does madness set in? Like 80 or 90? Where does it?
Preview 1.
No, that's true. Actually, preview 1 is true madness.
True madness.
Yes, but what happens in Audra's mind?
Well, I want to share with you a story about one of my mentors. I want to ask you too this about if you have any mentors that just.
Yes.
The mentor for me was Zoe Caldwell, incredible Australian actress who won I think 4 Tonys. I did masterclass with her with Terrence McNally, and she was Maria Callas, and she was on stage the whole time, and we played students that would come on, and based on the masterclasses that she did, that Callas did at Juilliard in the 70s. One night I came on, and I was 25, 26, and so 62, and Grand Dame of the theater. And we're doing our scene, and she looked at me and she, extra long pause. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so brilliant. And then she went on with the scene, and I asked her after, I was like, Zoe, what was coming up for you? And she's like, I was thinking steak for dinner tonight. Literally. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, this pause. What does it mean? But at the same time, it was a brilliant lesson for me watching her go through that process of saying yes to this show and then saying, she would say, what the fuck, why did I say yes to this show? I'm a rich woman, I don't have to do this. Why am I doing this? Because she was stumbling, she was flailing, she was forgetting lines. What I learned from that is it doesn't get easier. The more you do, it doesn't get easier. The stage fright won't be as bad and all of that.
Do you have stage fright?
100%.
Wow.
100% every single night. Do you?
Not every night.
You're not old enough. Yeah. Get my age.
No, I have. I think I've learned to become friends with it. I mean, it's still there.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a friend. I'm like, oh, okay, this thing that could be debilitating, it's sort of like, I know what it is. It's what we do is an unnatural thing, you know what I mean? It's a weird thing when you're up there. Like, sometimes I think about this, I don't know, you can see the other person, but like, there's just blinding lights at you. Right. So like, you're doing something like you can't, I just smacked into a column last night on the, like on my way on the first scene, I was just like, right into the column. And like, one of the very specific notes we have is like, please don't touch any of the columns because they move. And I was just like swinging in the first second scene, it wouldn't stop. And then I have weird superstitions.
What are your superstitions?
What are your superstitions?
I have the old school ones. Like
what, like
like don't whistle backstage.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like only break a leg, nothing else, kind of thing.
Yeah. Don't say the Scottish play inside a theater.
Kind of stuff?
Yeah.
When you say the Scottish play in Gypsy, that sounds like good luck with the. What do you?
No.
Yes, those
actually,
things,
when I was doing masterclass, I was singing an aria from the Scottish. Well, we're not in a theater, from Macbeth, and so it's all right. Well, what are your superstitions?
I have weird things. Like I have a thing about tying my shoelaces. Like I have a thing about just making sure they're like really tight. And I have a quick change in the middle of the show, and just like an amazing group of people helped me do it. But there was a moment where I was like, when we were in the first run through, it was like one person has to tie your left shoe, and then you're tying the other one.
Right. And
I was like, no one can't tie. No one can tie. And I was like, what? Who am I? Like I literally was like, are you sure you can tie it tight enough? Like it was like that. But there's something about that, like making sure the shoes are really on, like that I have my feet underneath me or something.
It's like you have your like little goalposts of, okay, if this happens, then this can happen.
Yes.
This happens, then this can happen. It's all part of the scaffolding that you need, right?
Yes.
In order to.
But then I also my sister has encouraged me, because she's amazing. And my brother-in-law too, both actors, and she's a writer-director, and they're both amazing. They're sort of like always and I try and encourage them too, because it's so much easier when you're sitting in the audience and saying it, but like, just like, let it be. The one thing, not the one thing, one of the millions of things that I've learned from Denzel is his freedom up there. Like when things change and move, when he doesn't remember something or something change, he's like, he really is flowing with it. And I like to think of myself as doing that, but I still have set boundaries for myself in that sense. And he's just like pushing them. And in that sense, it's actually made me much calmer on the stage. And
That's beautiful.
To know that, you know, I prepared and did all this stuff to get ready to work with him.
Right.
And then to have it be like, why'd you bring all these tools? Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, I don't need any of them.
Yeah.
You know, but that stuff is freeing.
Right.
But I think cool down should be part of my neuroses pre-shows, but I don't have that yet.
Okay,
You know,
well,
warm
I'm
up
borrowing the actual vocal cool down. Can I borrow that?
my vocal cool down?
Well, I mean, you have to
don't
tell
think
me
you
what
need
it
my
is.
vocal
Well, here's my other question for you, though. Do you want more Shakespeare now?
It's so funny. I've been humbled by it, so it's hard to be like, yeah, let's just jump right back in, you know, like, but once you've crossed through there's like, what else is there? Every single night, there's just this ephemeral, ever-changing thing you can never grasp, and you're never gonna get near it. Like, and so,
You're never
what
gonna
else
get
are you
it,
gonna do? You
Right.
know? What about you? Like, what? Well, I mean, you probably have your next 15 things you're doing, right?
Oh,
So you're
God,
like,
no. After Gypsy, I'm going to lie down for a year.
Really?
Yes, this is the hardest thing I've ever done.
I don't think a lot of people don't want to hear that.
No, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire
Really?
life. In my life.
Why?
Well, I don't think this interview is long enough for me to be able to tell.
Oh, it is.
No, okay.
Oh, no, it is. It's like 7 hours.
Well-
We're here for 7 hours. And there are no snacks. There's literally just water. So it's like, they're trying to just wear us down. So we're just like, so you tell me when. No, but really,
No,
like,
it's because, I mean, and I've played hard roles before, but this one, she vibrates on such a high level. I describe her as a tornado or a hurricane. She's not someone who's being affected by the hurricane. She is the hurricane. She's the outer bands of the hurricane. She's the eye of the hurricane. Because it's such an iconic role, and the same thing for you. I mean, like, had you seen Kenneth Branagh's Iago?
I've seen many and watched
And did you
many
watch and study?
Dug for clues and ways to cheat and
It's so funny because some people won't. Some people are like, oh, I'm not gonna watch any of them.
Me. No, not me. I was like beginner beyond beginner. So to understand even where to understand phrasing, to understand, and I'm not like this usually at all. I don't like to watch it, but to understand meaning. You know, there's certain actors who, if there were 4 different meanings, it would, it could mean this, it could mean that. It was like I had to spark my brain with other people's brilliance to show me and so I watched everything I possibly could.
In a way, free you.
Well,
Because if it could mean this, and this, then why couldn't it mean?
But then also steal from those choices too. I mean, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
When you're playing an iconic role, as you know, there's the judgment that comes in. There's the knowledge that a lot of people in the audience are coming in with. Well, I saw Merman.
Of
Well,
course.
I saw Tyne Daly. I
my
saw
God.
Patty. And this is how it's supposed to be done. Well, Rosalind Russell. I mean, so there's...
You feel that pressure.
Oh, yes. And because we're taking it and without overtly turning it on its head, we have turned it on its head by making it, having it seen through a black lens, you know, and having certain lines hit in a different way, and certain motivations, you know, all of a sudden the motivation seems slightly different, you know, even though we haven't changed a word. So that is a pressure. So there's also because I have a voice that's different than a lot of but I honestly think that most of the women that have played this part have had different voices from each other. Totally. Angela Lansbury does not sound like Ethel Merman, does not sound like Tyne Daly, that does not...
It's performance, it's acting.
Exactly.
Yes, your voice is extraordinary, but it's the acting part of it. That's what I mean when I watch that last opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this opportunity for her. It's the mix of all of it, but that's the Sondheim thing of like, it's a play that you are presenting. And as an actor, because I sing, but I could never claim that I understand what anybody's doing in that space, but what I can say as a performer, like as an actor, watching it, I go like, you take the music out of that, and you just hear her speak that, I can see your soul.
Well, that's what actually the first day of rehearsal, we did the entire musical.
speaking.
Just speaking, lyrics and everything. So that's the brilliance of Arthur Lawrence and Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah.
I mean, not discounting the brilliance of Julie Stein, but speaking of Sondheim, and you in what I consider to be the Bible, the actor's Bible as far as
The
musical's
performer's
concerned.
Bible.
The Sunday in the Park with George.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful voice, first of all.
Thanks.
Beautiful voice. And to get inside that role, which is so difficult. I mean, even just like, in a way, it's almost like its own language in the way that Shakespeare is, I think, Sondheim. It's why right now athletic is the word.
Right. No, athletic is actually...
It's athletic and poetic. I cannot sit through Sunday in the Park with George. I can't, do you hear me? I can't talk about it without weeping. I mean, it's just... I think it's the most glorious thing he ever wrote.
I mean, yeah, but then you
For
go
you to
to
be able
like...
to play that role, my gosh.
But then you go to like Into the Woods and you listen to like No More and you think about the lyrics and something like that. And you think about, yes, as a show, of course, but like him as an expression, you know,
Yes.
it's just like, it is asking something from you as playwright even before the music, right? It was more about practice. It was more about understanding the subtleties of decision and why it was made. It's the same thing why I ask myself in why Shakespeare decided to take something out of verse for Iago when he's not. And you start to think, oh, it's a musical because when it's in verse, I remember things in verse so much more easily than I do when they're out of verse.
Right.
I was talking to someone the other day that basically like, there's this one speech that Iago gives to Rodrigo where he's talking about like how, you know, Rodrigo says he's gonna drown himself and he's like, drown yourself, and he gives this whole speech. It's all out of verse, it's all just in. And I have worked on it for a year, and I am still so scared in the same way Sondheim does, where somehow where it's placed requires your brain to be active along with your heart at the same time. And if you somehow if you start thinking about steak, it's like, no. Listen,
get a great
performer.
pause.
Listen, performer. Like, you're just the performer. You know, you're just, you know, you have to be like totally in tune and on all the time in that in a couple spots. Other spots allow for a thing. That to me, it just takes practice. It's just practice. And then the piece itself, like, does its thing. How did it find you, so to speak? Really?
It's a show that I did when I was in dinner theater in Fresno, California. I played one of the little Uncle Jocko kitties, but I hadn't ever thought about it as something that I would do. And I never thought that anybody would cast me, you know. Obviously, this is not a role that's typically played by a Black woman because it is based on, you know, history. And then my dear friend, I don't know if you knew Gavin Creel. Did you know Gavin Creel?
Yes.
Wonderful man, and a very close friend of our family. And he was at Thanksgiving dinner about 8 years ago at our house, and he said, honey, I want to talk to you about something. And he dragged me into the garage. When he gets excited about, when he got, it's hard to talk about it in past tense now, but when he got excited about something, and so he dragged me in the garage, and he's like, honey, you need to play Rose in Gypsy. You need to do it, honey. It should be you. It should be a Black woman. I've been thinking about this. It needs to be you. You need to do it. You know, it could be so modern, and it's just a thing for you to do. And I was like, huh. And then,
had it never crossed your mind as something that you wanted to do, or
no? It's just something I didn't think was available to me. You know, weirdly or not, you know, Gavin passed this past fall, and he died the first day of rehearsal.
No.
Yeah, I don't know what you believe in, what anybody believes in, but I just sort of feel like he's been with me the whole time. So I really have him to thank for encouraging me to seek it out.
Turn up like the lights. You've got nothing to hit but the heights.
That last, I would call it the soliloquy, but I don't know what you would call it.
Rose's turn, yeah.
Rose's turn, obviously, but like I think of it as a soliloquy in expression. It gave me hope for the possibility of a certain type of presence that theater gives me. That hope that it's still alive, like the flame of presence that, as professionals, we try and have on a nightly, daily basis, but it's not always there. And obviously there's technique that is used to continue through a long run and all the things, but like the fact that in the show that I saw, there was the presence on that night must mean that presence is there every night. That is there is nothing like it, and it is rarely there, no matter how, I think, and it must be from the beginning of that exchange that you had with him, the truth of it and the thing in you. Obviously, you are who you are and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
But that presence, for me as a performer, watching you do that, gave me hope. It made me an inspiration. And I was about to go start rehearsals and I saw your show. It just gave me hope that I could strive for something that's impossible to get, really.
I think it's this. I think it's impossible for us as performers. We can see it in others. We can think that we're in it ourselves or find ourselves in it. It's so ephemeral. It's so,
yeah, but you tap into something, I think, that's like, obviously, the rich history of that character, crazy history and crazy character in certain ways. The humanness of her, to me, also gave me hope that, and in your expression. So how does one approach a song as iconic as Rose's Turn?
I started singing it in concert after the idea had already been put in my head that maybe I did want to play Rose. And so my music director, Andy Einhorn, and I decided, let's sing it in concert, and just sort of see, what it is. I was bombarded with all the other iconic performances in my head. And I was like, hi ladies, I got to get them out and figure out who I am in this song instead of just trying to get right to the... When we were just in Andy's apartment rehearsing it, I noticed that I was really starting to get emotional as I sang through it when I wasn't freaking out about how I sounded. And it was right around the line, one quick look as each of them leaves you. And it was around the time that, it was the summer that my oldest daughter was getting ready to move out of the house to go to college. And I realized, I apologize if I get emotional talking about this, but I had all this sort of weird rage toward her that summer. And my daughter and I, we have a beautiful relationship. She's like never done a thing wrong, or I've never been able to catch her. She's a great, amazing human being. And I was just pissy with her, and I was just kind of like angry at her, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why am I so mad at her? It didn't even enter my mind that it was. And then one day in rehearsing Rose's Turn, I burst out into tears. I was like, that's why I'm so angry with Zoe, because she's leaving me. Okay, so anyway, so that was my breakthrough, because you wouldn't ever think that a parent would be angry about it, and it didn't make sense.
Why not?
But why not? But you know what I mean? I was like, but it's Zoe, and she's great, and I realized too that my mom was really pissy with me the summer before I moved to New York. So that was my in. You just find that however you could open the package to get in, And that was my in for me understanding the beginning of Rose's rage. And then from there, I just realized I just have to, because it's so beautifully constructed. The breakdown it's all you've got to do is just trust what Sondheim has given you and what Julie Stein has given you musically and everything that Arthur Lawrence has given you up to that moment. And so from there, I was able to just sort of let go of what else had been done, because I'm doing it through the lens of a Black woman too. There's so much in Rose's Turn that can be about someone being held back because of their color and because they are a woman. And so it's not only about the kids, but it's that as well, and the abandonment and the generational trauma of being abandoned by her mother. So once I let go of the iconic sound and how this has to be a big bring the house down 11 o'clock number, I've let go of all of that. And I've been able to just sort of like explore the abyss that Rose has fallen into at this point.
Were your daughters, obviously, how many times have they seen the show? Were they at the opening? What is it like?
My daughters were at the opening. My older daughter, Zoe, has seen the show, I think, 3 times. Sally, who was 8, saw it opening night, and my husband came backstage afterwards, and I said, how did Sally do during Rose's Turn? Oh my gosh, was it so scary for her? And he was like, she was asleep. She fell asleep right after the
You
strippers.
were thinking about her probably so much, you know, you were doing it. He was like drawing all this stuff and she's dead
She
asleep.
couldn't care less.
I love it.
She was out. She was out.
It's so beautiful.
But anyway, you've opened after I have, so I haven't
Yeah,
been
yeah,
able
yeah.
to
No, yeah,
see
you
your
can't see it. No,
show.
no.
Desperate to see it. Also, I can't afford to come to your
please.
show. But at any rate, I wish I could see it. You know, for many reasons, just to see you play this part, to see the great Denzel. You know, you guys are directed by one of my favorite directors, Kenny Leon.
Yes.
But I think for us in particular, having to play these characters that are thought of as evil and monsters, I'd be so curious to hear about how you had to dig deep to find Iago's humanity. Because we who are playing monsters can't think of ourselves, right, as monsters. You can't, or you can't think of yourself as evil because you can't play evil.
I don't
unless
even
you're
know
like,
what that means in
you
the
know?
context of action, right?
Right,
I don't think you can make that active. Like, I don't think, because personally, like, if there's a moral center in someone, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want to move past. Like, I'm driven by, and I think also it's with Sondheim too. It's that you're driven. The word is the thing.
Yes.
To always have that to lean on, knowing that it's pushing you in a direction. So it means you can play against that because the structure of the story and the word is so strong that you can sort of dance back and forth, and you can abrase it, and you can do all different things, and it will still continue because of the power of it.
Right.
So if he's going to do something that is an action that is like just reprehensible, I find it fun to obviously play
Go in the
against,
other
and then
direction.
move with it, and depending on who I'm with, you know, it's the same thing.
Right.
I find it really interesting, and the reason why I am so moved by Rose's Turn is it's your discussion with the audience. And to me, I look at Iago in his discussion with the audience.
Yeah.
He's talking with them and saying to them, do you have the same thing in you? What is that stuff in you? It's a literal exchange. And nightly, there are responses and sort of a call and response to the way in which, at least I'm trying to play it.
But do you get actual response from the audience?
Yeah. I mean, like and I feel like what he says at the very end of the show is say, what you know, you know, when asked about why he did it. And I always feel like the audience is complicit, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't even say that. I would say they are in their humanness, right?
Right.
And their enjoyment of the story that they haven't even realized is a total tragedy until we get to the end. I also find like he's different every night, you know. Sometimes it veers into mustache twirling more than it should, and then sometimes he's brokenhearted.
Right.
There's a Steinbeck quote about the 3 different types of children, and about, you know, revenge and the idea of that. And I always look at him as sort of the kid that kicked the cat, you know, and out of hurt, out of grief.
Yeah, I think a lot of time when you're watching, you know, when I've seen productions of Othello, if you really want to step back and look at Iago, you can say, okay, aside from Othello, who hurt you?
Exactly.
You know, and now I want to understand. You know, which thank God for the arts.
Yes.
And at this point in time, we're
Yes.
having to fight to keep them alive because they continue to show us our humanity,
Yes.
and to show us ourselves, and to show us others, and to show how much more alike we are. If you can see the humanity in someone else, then it's harder to hurt them. You know what I mean? And so even like when I do concerts all over the country too, the thing I talk about before I sing most of my songs is like, all right, I'm just me up here and you're just you, and let's see what we have in common. Bill Brown, who's a wonderful orchestrator, Broadway orchestrator who's since passed, used to say, audiences check their brains with their hats, but they take their hearts to their seats. And that's, you know, where we can then sort of like heal each other.
Yeah,
in
well,
a
that's what
way.
I think is music and singing is sort of like just the beating heart sort of out there.
Yeah.
In that way. In a different way that I think like things without a downbeat or without a melody with them is a different sort of vibe.
In doing something, you know, in the same way as iconic, you know, a role like this, I know you sort of looked to them to see what you could find, or you know, are they still with you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Or have you said, okay, thank you and good night, thank you and good night? Do they haunt you?
No. I wish that the actors that I watched play this role that I learned from, admittedly that I stole ideas from, that they knew, I wish I could tell them like how much they are with me and how much their minds are in mine, you know, nightly. Because to me, like, I couldn't do it alone. I can't do any of this stuff alone.
Yeah.
And first couple weeks of rehearsal, I sort of went, wait, what am I doing? I'm not doing, what stones unturned? Like, what have I not, you know, I got all the books and I did all the, you know, and my producer that I worked with had done a number of plays with Ian McKellen, and I called him and I said, could you ask Ian McKellen if I could just talk to him for a second? I just wanted to ask another Iago. I'm feeling a little like, you know. And he, like the gentleman that he is, we FaceTimed, and he just gave me a sort of renewed sense of things, just a sort of love and inspiration of the character. And to this day, he still was just sharp as a tack with every moment of Iago.
Oh, I believe it.
That was an honor.
How incredibly generous.
So generous. And
So
such
generous.
an honor. Like, I was trying to play it off all, you know, I was like, oh yeah, Iago, yeah. I was like, yeah, let's talk about, you know. But he was so
Were you smoking a pipe?
great. Yeah, I got dressed up for the whole occasion.
That's incredible.
Really, Rory Kinnear, who did an extraordinary Iago with Adrian Lester, which is an amazing Nick Heitner production, which really influenced me. Obviously, Kenneth Branagh, though, there are edits in that movie that sometimes confuse me, like when I was watching it, because I was working on the whole thing, and he uses other lines for other characters. I'm like, that's Iago's line. And so I was like, obviously, McKellen, Simon Russell Beale. Wish I could have seen Mark Rylance, Daniel Craig. I mean, the list goes on and on. I did his monologue in 2019, and I was instructed by my director in the midst of rehearsal that whatever happens, we would respond to. So, you know, because we were
freeing.
Oh, so freeing. And that kind of idea of, we already talked about sacred space and all this stuff and all that, but I actually think it's all part of that same space.
What happens when a cell phone?
I don't have the attitude that's like, you know, and in fact, I think what it does when that response happens is that an audience, like you said, they come in with their hearts open, and things happen. You know what I mean? Like, I think they are gifts. And
Forces the present. Forces everybody into the present.
They're all gifts. Like, and yes, things can be disruptive and things happen, but still it is that. And it is a space in which that can be a gift. And so, like, someone goes off, like, it's a little weird, but we're in modern times in ours, so it sort of works. It's okay.
Yeah.
But even so, it's like, I don't know, it's different when it happens. I have a different response every time. I've never, like, you know, because of that direction from our director, Carrie Cracknell, who told us just whatever happens. And so now I kind of take that with me.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I don't like call it out, you know, like I did in the monologue. We'd sort of call it out in the monologue. What about you? You're like, you're like, if
I
you
have a
set
little
up
water gun. No water guns. When
in
I
a
was
musical, you don't hear it as much, right?
Yes,
You do?
you do, my friend. Yes. Did you ever have a cell phone go off during
No,
Sonny
I was
Parker
just
George?
terrified the whole time, so I was just like, you know, it's fine. But,
Oh man, once you go up on a Sondheim lyric,
there's nowhere getting back.
You cannot.
Someone said, do you improv in Shakespeare? It's like, are you crazy?
how
when
do you
go
do
on,
that?
You can't.
Same
No,
thing
it's
with
not.
that's someone threw you off the train. You ain't getting back on that train.
No way.
It's not happening. No. When I was doing Lady Day, and that whole show is an actual. She's giving a performance at a nightclub. That's the conceit of the play. And so she's having this sort of like slow breakdown as she's doing the concert. And so she's drinking too much, she goes off stage and shoots up at one point. So the audience is a part of the show, very much a part of the show. They are a character in the show. But it took place 4 months before she died in 1959. So a cell phone goes off for Billie Holiday in 1959 when she's high and drunk and dying at that point as well. I was like, at first I tried to ignore it, and then I was like, no, they are here. I cannot ignore this. So I was like, what would Billie Holiday do? So one night a cell phone went off really close to the end, and she's so slurring her words by this point, refusing to sing songs by this point. She's brought her dog on stage, and she's smoking and telling all these horrible stories. Cell phone goes off, and they're not turning it off. And I just went, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? What? And I just turned around in a circle and went, what the fuck is that? What the fuck? And then finally, I'm sure I scared the shit out of the audience. The poor audience member. I had to acknowledge it because everybody, and you could hear the audience.
But what the fuck is that?
Yeah, but why would she know what that is? Because it wasn't like it was a regular phone ring.
Was it a regular ring? Was it a regular ring?
No, it was like ding, 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 ding.
That's kind of great.
What the fuck? I appreciate what you said about.
You're like, but I don't appreciate what you said.
No, I do. I do appreciate what you said about it being a gift, because those moments when something, my husband and I call it, when you look left instead of right. You look right every night in a performance, and then one night you look left, and all of a sudden there's a presence there.
Yeah.
You're forced into that present moment. So as disruptive as it can feel, I appreciate what you said about the fact that it can be a gift.
Anything.
Yeah.
Even me knocking into the column last night.
I'm sure
I was like,
you in
it hurt, but I was also like,
ow.
Yeah, but it was like, I was just a little bit left when I should have been a little bit right, but it took me to a different place, and then it woke me, I woke myself up.
Right.
But there are those
Because you're having to find those veins every night anyway, because you want it to seem like the first time it's ever happened, right? For the audience, you have to do that. Sometimes, like you said, these gifts come, and it's not like, I mean, he's Iago, but it's not like Iago didn't run into a column in his life.
No, well, that's true, yeah. And then also, I think, like, what are you gonna do, right? You wanna push the story forward, and you wanna tell the story. And you don't want, there's a thing that happens, all the focus goes to the person, and one goes, like, what are you doing? Turn that off, And it's like, it's fine. Anyway, and then we go, oh, I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
So, and they follow the story again.
That's right.
And it's like anything in service of the story.
Thank
what
you.
the fuck was that? That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
It was so nice to talk to you.
I could keep on talking to you.
Don't save your voice.
No,
Save your
and
voice.
we're gonna cool down.
Cool down.
We're gonna do our warm downs.
It was lovely and an honor to speak to you.
Likewise.
And thank you for bringing that show and the performance to all of us.